The rain was falling softly, its droplets dancing in the dim light of the hospital entrance. The red glow of the sign that read, "Emergency," shimmered brighter through the misty air. The smell of wet earth blended with the sterile sharpness of disinfectant that seeped from the hospital's sliding doors. The street outside glistened with reflections of headlights, while the rhythmic splash of passing cars created a background hum against the drizzle. There, beneath the shadow of the red letters, stood a young girl. She was no more than 8 years old, her small frame drenched in rain, yet her arms were wrapped tightly around a frail toddler. The boy's tiny body was hot with fever, his breath shallow, his face flushed and restless. The girl's eyes were wide, blue with terror yet steady with determination. She looked up at the man standing before her, a tall figure in a dark suit, his collar wet with raindrops, his expression unreadable but his gaze sharp. Gathering all the courage in her trembling voice, the girl whispered, almost pleading. "Please, just save him." The man's jaw tightened. His eyes moved from the girl's pale, desperate face to the small boy shivering against her chest. Something stirred inside him, a conflict he hadn't expected. He took in a deep breath, the rain tapping lightly against his shoulders as though urging him to answer. "He is very sick," the man finally said, his voice calm yet heavy. "I will." That moment hung in the air like a fragile thread binding two very different worlds. One was a world of poverty, helplessness, and pure love, the other was a world of power, wealth, and cold decisions. Yet the rain, falling equally on both, had brought them together at the same place and time. The girl's name was Aisha. Though only 8 years old, her eyes carried the weight of years far beyond her age. Life had made her older before her time. The baby in her arms was her little brother, Ali, just 18 months old. For days he had been burning with fever, his tiny lungs struggling for air. Their father had died in an accident a year ago, leaving their mother to work endless hours as a cleaner to earn scraps of food. But today, when Ali's fever soared dangerously high, Aisha knew she couldn't wait. While her mother was still at work, she had gathered the last of her courage and brought her brother to the hospital. The man she had stopped was Faraz Khan, a name known throughout the city. A powerful businessman, wealthy beyond imagination, a man whose decisions moved markets and shaped futures. He was accustomed to people pleading before him, but never like this. Never a child, soaked in rain, holding on to another life so desperately. Inside Faraz, a war began. He had the influence, the resources, but did he truly have the will to save this child? The girl's trembling voice, however, cut through his hesitation. "Uncle, I heard, you're a big man. You have everything. I have nothing, nothing but my brother. Please, don't let him go." For a moment, Faraz could not breathe. The rain was cool, but his forehead was warm with sweat. An image flashed across his mind, his own childhood. He remembered being a sick boy once, gasping for breath, while his mother cried at the doors of a hospital, praying that her son would live. Someone had shown mercy then. Someone had given him the chance to survive. "Come," Faraz said suddenly, his voice steady, decisive. "We'll go inside right now." He pulled out his phone, dialing quickly. "Prepare the emergency ward immediately. A child needs urgent admission," he ordered, his tone leaving no space for delay. Aisha blinked, unsure if she was dreaming. She saw nurses rushing toward them with a stretcher. They gently lifted Ali from her arms, checking his pulse, adjusting an oxygen mask. For a moment, Aisha's empty arms ached, but then she realized her brother was finally in hands that could save him. "Thank you, Uncle, thank you," she whispered, her small hands folded in gratitude. The hospital corridor bustled with urgency. Doctors surrounded Ali, their voices quick and professional, the beeping of machines filling the air. Aisha stood outside the glass doors, shivering, whispering small prayers under her breath. She repeated verses she had learned, her voice trembling yet firm, as if each word could bind her brother's fragile life to the world. Faraz stood beside her, watching. He was unsettled. He had seen business empires rise and fall, but never had he seen courage like this in someone so small. An 8-year-old girl, standing against fear, shouldering responsibility no child should bear. He bent down and asked softly, "Aren't you afraid?" Her lips quivered, but she met his gaze. I'm very afraid. But he's my brother. Father is gone. Mother works all day. If I don't have courage, then who will?" The words struck Faraz like an arrow. He felt a sharp ache inside his chest, something he hadn't felt in years. This little girl, with nothing in her pockets, had more strength than many adults he knew. Hours dragged on. Rain ceased, leaving the city damp and silent under a pale moon. Inside, Ali lay connected to wires, his tiny chest rising and falling under careful medical watch. The doctors worked tirelessly, their eyes fixed on him, fighting against the fever that had consumed his body. Aisha refused to leave the corridor. Faraz arranged food for her, but she shook her head. I won't eat until Ali is better, she said stubbornly, her small voice resolute. Those words burrowed deep into Faraz's heart. He thought of the lavish banquets he attended, the golden plates, the wasted meals. None of it carried the weight of this child's promise. She was fasting on hope, refusing comfort until her brother lived. As dawn approached, a soft change spread through the ward. Ali's fever began to subside. His breathing steadied, his cheeks lost their crimson flush. The lead doctor emerged, tired but smiling. The danger has passed, he announced. The boy is stable now. He will recover, but he needs care and treatment for the next weeks. Aisha gasped, her little hands covering her mouth. Tears filled her eyes, not tears of sorrow, but of relief, of joy she hadn't dared to imagine. She ran forward, grabbing the doctor's hand and pressing it to her forehead. Thank you, she repeated, her voice breaking. She turned then, her gaze falling on Faraz. Uncle, you saved him. You saved my brother. May God bless you forever. Faraz felt his throat tighten. For the first time in years, he couldn't form words easily. There was a peace in his chest he hadn't known existed. But as he watched Aisha stroke her brother's forehead, whispering comfort, another thought grew within him. These children, how long could they survive this way? With their father gone, their mother exhausted, their lives dangling between hunger and sickness. Saving Ali once was not enough. He knelt beside Aisha. Would you like your brother to have a good life? He asked gently. Education, care, medicine, everything he needs. Aisha froze, her brows furrowed. Yes, but we are poor. We have nothing. Such things are not for us. Faraz gave a faint smile, though his eyes were wet. From today, you are not alone. You have me. That moment, in the damp silence of the hospital corridor, something irreversible happened. Not just a boy was saved, but a man's heart was changed forever. Aisha's desperate plea in the rain had awakened humanity in a soul buried under wealth and success. Faraz took responsibility for the children. He wasn't merely a benefactor, but a guardian, a protector. He ensured Ali's treatment continued, arranged for their education, and lifted their small family from the shadows of poverty. He visited often, not as a stranger in a suit, but as someone who belonged, someone who cared. And so, that single night of rain, that fragile voice saying, please, just save him, became the turning point in 3 lives. Sometimes, miracles don't come as lightning in the sky or angels descending from heaven. Sometimes, miracles come as a businessman pausing in the rain, a child refusing to give up, and the soft thread of compassion that binds strangers into family.